Hello there, and welcome back to the chat. That is, Colette and Matt have entered the chat. I am your co-host, Matt Silverman. Pleased, thrilled to welcome back to her own show, her very own show, the much healthier Colette Bennett.
Yes, I am not 100%, but I am what? I guess I'd say I'm like 85%. And let me tell you, that feels so much better than like 12% or whatever I was running on for a while there.
What went wrong? What happened?
Wow.
What did you do?
Well, I got a cold because as our listeners may or may not know, now that I pause to think about it, I traveled. My mom came in town, which, by the way, seeing your parents absolutely lowers your immune system. It's now confirmed. And then after seeing my mom all weekend without a break, I jumped on an airplane and went to the other side of America to see BTS for one day, get 2 hours of sleep, and then come back. So I can't imagine what about any of this could have been a problem.
Oh, yeah, right. So you went, a year and a half not seeing very many people, and then now you went with very little sleep and saw everybody, and it got you. It got you.
Like, I really had to facepalm myself. I was like, God. Anyway, so yeah. So that happened, and I do not recommend the winter cold. It is bullshit. It is like, sometimes people say colds are 3 days coming, 3 days sick, 3 days going. Mm-hmm. It was 7 days all the way. Yeah.
Because I kept checking in with you being like, hey, let me know if you're feeling up to it. And you're like, oh God, I can't. I still can't.
No,
it still
bad,
got me.
super, super bad. So anyway, I was very lucky last week because I was just like, well, Matt's fucked. He's just going to have to talk to himself. Not that you couldn't, I feel like if anyone, you could, but I was like, man, I'm so screwed. And we had invited our extremely talented friend Sky to come and be the guest this week, but I got sick a week early. So, as anybody that listened to the show already knows, Sky was like a literal superhero and was like, oh yeah, not only will I be the guest, but I'll also come in and sub for you for a week.
Substitute teacher. I misbehaved. I threw a lot of trash around the podcast because there's no rules while you were out. So we had a good time.
So yes, to say the least. So I'm back and Sky's back with us, and Sky, thanks.
That's my intro? Okay, hey.
Well, look, officially,
I was taking a sip of water. I didn't think it would just drop.
Look, let's take it back. Ready? Here we go.
Agent Mulder believes we are not alone.
What?
Please welcome Sky Burkson to the show. We are not alone.
I'm not alone. It's finally good to know that I'm not alone
in the universe.
Oh my God. That was good.
So now we're all here. We can split look, Colette and I can split the hosting duties officially. You're off the hook, and you can just be a guest. You can be in the immortal words of the candle from Beauty and the Beast. You can now just be our guest.
I don't think anyone has ever quoted the candle to me.
Yeah. What's his name? Points if you can get this without Googling. I don't know the answer.
I don't know.
Lighty.
It's like a
Sky wins.
Senor Lighty, I think.
That is canonical. Yes, that is good. That's good. How you doing since last week?
I'm good. I'm doing good. I only talked to you 3 days ago.
Shh, don't tell anyone. We're
not supposed to reveal that.
Yeah, it's a whole week later.
Oh, it's a whole week. I see. Yeah. So, well, it's been a long time since we talked.
Yes.
And I'm good. I was just telling Colette that I got my booster, and I was talking about not getting enough sleep, but then getting enough sleep, and your body still feels like you didn't get enough sleep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 So, the booster was it ran me down for sure.
It did.
I did not expect
that's good
it.
to hear. I kept hearing people go, "Oh no, the booster's fine," and I was like, "Okay, if you say so." The second one made me feel like.
Everyone I know that did it got really sick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Except my mother, who did not. What the fuck is that about?
Yeah, it's so random. Yeah.
It ain't right.
It's not. But But the good news is that most people seem to power through, right? Like it's not that long.
And you know what? Got it. So better than some. So
yes, I believe now we are all boosted. Yes, Matt?
Yeah, all boosted. Yay. And just in time for Omicron. And I'm in New York here, and you guys are in other places, but we just the governor correctly and sadly is like, no, we have to go back to mask mandates indoors and among mixed groups of people. And and the other thing that's spooking me a little bit is that and Sky, you'll relate, although your son is younger. We were looking at the finish line here. We were saying once the kids got vaccinated, and both of ours are over 5 years old now, so we were like, yes, we've got it. The finish line is here. We can still be safe, but mostly feel good about getting back to all the normal things. And then it's like I was walking the kids home the other day, and a neighbor was like, hey, just FYI, we're quarantining. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? She's like, every single person at Thanksgiving was double vaxxed and boosted, and a brother or a brother-in-law at the table is a school teacher, and despite double vax and boost, tested positive, and everyone at Thanksgiving, and everyone was fine, no big deal, but like, it ruined the next 2 weeks of everyone's life, and it's knock on wood, it's okay, but like with the holidays coming up, we're just like looking at the calendar, being like, who's going to fuck up Christmas? Like, and not casting blame at anyone. It's just like everyone in the family is doing the right thing, and still we're worried that it's going to get screwed up. So
I think that's hard, right? Because it's like, then, if everybody's vaccinated, everybody's boosted, everybody comes over and you're like, we're safe. Like, I feel like the only step beyond that is, well, let's do the family gathering, but everyone's got to wear their mask. And it's like, who the fuck wants to do that?
No, it sucks. No one wants to do that.
So it's tough. But I mean, I was reading a piece on the New York Times earlier today about like people just kind of hitting their wits' end as far as like depression around COVID goes. And I think there's a lot of people out there who treat it like it's over, which is very frustrating, I think. But I think there's also a lot of people who are also like they're at their wits' end. And it talked a lot about other countries that have gone in and out of quarantine, that type of thing. And so I was like, I think we're lucky here in that we have definitely been able, like my husband and I go to restaurants, like we wear our masks in, we, sit down, we eat with our masks off, we put our mask back on, we leave. But like every time it is a risk, and I know it, but other than that, we don't really do a lot still. But at least we got to do that thing that mattered to us, right? Like
you don't have unvaccinated at-risk people in your home. You both work from home. I don't remember if Patrick's still at home. Yeah. So like even
it's very insular.
Yeah, if you exposed yourself, you are likely not really exposing anyone else in your circle. And so I think that risk factor is significantly lower than most people who are just like, yep, I'm a school teacher walking into the bagel shop as I see in my neighborhood. And it's like, yup, what? You're going back to the classroom with kids. Like, what are you doing?
Oh,
bro?
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that drives me nuts.
Yep. Yeah. It's very frustrating. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, we take a deep breath and we get on, right? So that's what we're doing.
Just getting on.
Getting on.
Just keep on getting on.
Keep on getting on. Put it on a t-shirt. But today we're not talking about COVID for the whole show.
Why not?
Well, all right. Great. Format change.
This is so great, though. It's so cheery.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Anthony Fauci. He is our guest today.
Finally. You know what?
He's like, hi, y'all are fucked.
It's finally time we heard from Fauci 2 years in.
Imagine if we brought Fauci on and didn't ask him a single thing about epidemiology. We just talked about like Metroidvanias the whole time.
Yeah. Like, hey,
what's your top 3, buddy?
What are you playing to pretend like the world outside doesn't exist?
How did Nintendo let you down this year, Fauci?
Oh boy, good times. So just as a quick aside, because this is making me think of it, 1,000 years ago when I worked for Destructoid, we used to try to think of like stuff to do that would be like, different or funny or whatever. And we worked with this one guy who went on to work for Nintendo. He's amazing. But anyway, he was like, I have a great idea. He's like, you know how everyone does E3 predictions? Yeah, okay, we know. So he's like, let's go to the Los Angeles Zoo and let's ask the animals what their E3 predictions are. And then we made a video of it. I really hope it still exists on the internet because y'all, this video was literal solid gold. He marched around the zoo and like held the microphones up to animals and asked them like if they thought Mario Kart 5 was coming or whatever. It was so good.
That is the absurdist gold. But here's the kicker, though. That host who is holding the microphone needs to carry that bit all the way through because obviously the animals are not going to say anything. So he needs to be there to be like, and what about this? I assume he delivered on that promise.
Not only did he deliver, but I just found the link.
All right. We'll put it in the show notes. We'll put it in the Discord.
I'll put it in our chat in the show notes. But like, I am going to read this again with great relish.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Well, it's time to talk about the most important topic in the history of human civilization. Not COVID, not pandemics, not anything like that. But it is, of course, video games. Now, it has not been long since Sky and I just chatted about our current gaming habits, but as our guest of honor, well, you know what? We should back up. Do we want to pick Sky's brain a little bit more about his professional and artistic endeavors? Did I hit the button too quickly?
I don't think you did, but there actually was one question that I wondered, and I don't think you guys covered it on the prior show. I wondered what was the first time, Sky, you ever looked at a game and went, you know, it would be really cool if I made that into a miniature.
Mm.
No, you don't have to have made the miniature. Just like the first time you ever went, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea when it was.
You don't remember?
Because it could have been anything, and it would be dishonest to be like, oh, it was this game, and it probably wasn't. The first one I did make was Mario 3.
Nice.
But I definitely wanted to. I always wanted to make the throne room from Mario 3.
Yes.
I would like to revisit it and give it a little more. I don't know, a better look, but that one, I mean, Mario 3 is one of my favorites of all time. So it's hard not to, I could make the whole game. I think it's, when it comes to the 8-bit era, it's one of the best looking ones. So
yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing when you look at early NES games and then you look at Mario 3, like, it looks like a different game system. It looks like a generational leap, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's my favorite part of looking through this sort of stuff. It's just figuring out how they designed things aesthetically. I don't know jack shit about how they put the ones and zeros before each other. I have no idea. But how they drew them up, I love breaking that open because you find out with like Mario 3. Metroid is another one that does it where you're like, it looks a little old, the original Metroid, but it pumps some real atmosphere. But I don't know which one was the first one. If I had to assign it, it would be Mario 3 was the first one where I went, I gotta do something. Breath of the Wild was a big one though. It's just visually like so many distinct. There's the running joke with like the community that I have around me of like, build the stable. You better build the goddamn stable. Because I told everybody I was going to do it someday, especially my wife, who still is like, gives me grief about it all the time.
Are you going to build the stable?
Where's the stable?
Oh, you don't have anything to build right now? Could you maybe start on that right now, Sky? Like, no, I can't.
There's a lot in that. There's a lot. Yeah, it's big. It's complicated. There's a few different ones that have different looks, right?
I've tried 3 times to start it, and every time I start it and then go, oh my god, this is so. I just haven't I don't know. We could talk about process at some point, but it's always like sometimes it clicks immediately, and I'm like, yep, this is it. I'm going for it. And other times it'll go on what I call the shelf, which is just a like phantom shelf that they land on and they sit there forever and I never finish them and eventually go, forget. I guess I'm going to just throw this one out.
But here's the tragedy. I relate to this very deeply. The tragic thing, tell me if you agree, is like there's stuff that goes on the shelf that you really, really want to make, and you are sad because it's not clicking. And then there's other stuff that's like when it's a whim and it didn't click, and you just kind of be like, okay, on to the next one.
Yeah. Yep. That's the whole deal. As I get bummed out, like not finishing one, but I've gotten to a place where I'm like, it's not going to bother me too much to not have completely. There's always going to be the ones that sit there, and they're always going to sit with me, even after I throw them away. But then, for the most part, I've done a lot of soul searching to be like, if you hold that above your own head, that's only bad juju. You got to let it sit, go to the trash.
That's really good advice to yourself. I think. Yeah. Because I mean, I personally, as an artist, am a person who can beat the shit out of myself like eternally. So I think it's good to kind of cut it off and be like, no, we're not doing that.
You can't spook me from the past, you piece of shit. Get out of here. You go away. I gave up on you. And by that I mean I'll still remember you.
I'll remember you forever.
I'll remember you and how I screwed this one up. Oopsie.
For us and listeners who may not be familiar, when you complete a project, where does it live? Meaning, some of them you're enjoying yourself, and some of them are commissions that you are making for others and selling. And then, but like, let's say it's just something that you embarked on. It's not a specific, like, is the goal to sell it, or where does it end up, or does that vary?
It depends on my feeling when I finish it. If it's not something that was commissioned, I'll take a commission, and that obviously goes where the commission is intended to go, the person who paid for it. But if it's my own piece, a lot of the time I don't decide whether I'm going to sell it until I'm done with it. If I really like it, I'm like, all right, I'm going to either it's not for sale and I love it, which is rare. A lot of the time, the stuff that I finish and I'm like, this is something that I really, really love. I'll put a very large price on it because I'm like, you need to make it worth it to me.
If this is going to go, it better really go. Yeah.
Especially because, and I tend to price. There's a business side that I've applied that's like, I don't like to sell my pieces to people just to get like workout. Right. I like these pieces mean something to me. Even when I finish it, I'm like, okay, that wasn't my best effort. Those are usually like on the cheaper end when it comes to pricing, which is not like pricing's not a fun thing to talk about, but it's the philosophy I've always worked with is if you want this, you will pay for it. And it makes it fair to everybody involved because I know it's going to go to a good home because you'll be willing to. And that's basically, and it's worth it to me to like take it and give it to somebody. So
right. Because you're not making widgets, you have created something that is one of one. It is a unique object, and it is emotionally relevant to a specific piece of art. A game that means something to some. So this is a special item.
Yeah.
That it must find its appropriate destination in the marketplace if it is for sale.
I found that when you put a price on it, and it's like, it might be. I don't think my pieces are super duper expensive. From what I've seen, I can't do that, but like, I know that it will take commitment to actually purchase a piece from me, and I find that the longer it sits, I'm willing to let it sit with me, especially because I like keeping them around for multiple reasons. One, I can make sure that it goes to someone who's really thought like, I want this piece. I really want this. It resonates with me. I love this game that you made it from, or I love the idea behind what you'd made, but also because I can use it for part of my private collection. And those go to, like, if I have an art show, I can gather these pieces and show them off at an art show, which isn't happening right now.
Yeah, but virtually, they've been part of events on Twitch and other places, right?
Yeah, exactly. They can stay with me like that. I mean, the digital form of it can stay with me forever.
Well, that was my next question. Is like, do you feel satisfied? Everything that I make is digital, so when it's done, it can be backed up. It can be on a hard drive somewhere, or it can live on the internet indefinitely. But so, are you satisfied with taking very good, high-res, detailed pictures and videos of your object and then setting it free into the world, or is there something about having it?
That goes back to like once you have said I'm willing to commit to having this piece from you, and we've gone through the proper channels, I have no qualms with it. I'm like, this has gone to the right home. I feel great about it, and it lives on. Like, two parts is I don't have to make space for the next piece I'm going to make because that one left.
Yeah,
and two, I'm always going to remember it. There's also something like about the transients that I always think with where we're at with photography, with like everybody has a camera on their phone, that I've been thinking about a lot in the past year, where especially with Felix, with the temporary like state of photography is like not being present. I'm going through a whole thing lately in the past year of being present off the screen. And which is, I think, something we've all heard people talk about at end. But the thing for me that I've come to with it is like seeing Felix grow up, my son, and not taking photos and then feeling bad that I didn't take a photo to capture a moment, but then being like, you know what? Actually, I'm really glad that thing he just did is in my memory more than it is in a photograph.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with this part of it. It's not it's not helpful to like when I'm with him alone and Christine is like, "Oh, you didn't take a photo of that?" But like I'm like, yeah, but it's here. It's in my brain now, and I'm glad that that's just there. At some point, this is going to rot, and I'm not going to be able to remember anything, if not my own name. But like, I'm okay with that part. I'm really okay with that. That stays like a memory, as opposed to some like other piece of data somewhere that just like. I have like my mom has like tons of photographs that are physical. They're not digital, but they're all like, you go back to my parents' place and it's like tons of photographs. You open up a cabinet and it's just like they pour out on top of it. There's so many photographs. And I'm like, I wouldn't be able to remember like all of the like 7 different photographs from the same angle of the same thing. I'm glad to just remember the one so that there's not copies and copies and copies. And if we even lose the one, that's fine with me. Like, because if it was something that was important, I feel like that's a dangerous thing to say, I guess, is that if it's important, I feel like I would remember it because, of course, there's things you forget. But
right.
I like to just sit with those things. And sometimes it's like sitting with like the moment of finishing the piece is better than, well, that's for sure. I can actually say this for sure. Sometimes sitting with the moment finishing the piece is better than photographing it, because it's definitely been times when I'm like, I cannot get the right fucking angle on this photograph. This looks like dog shit in the photo. What is going on here? Could have sworn I loved this second ago.
Well, that's interesting, because like then it's like this piece only works if you are physically with it.
Yes.
Physically present with it. That's really interesting. Like, a photograph of the Mona Lisa does not convey the, I don't know what you call it, the resonance or the power of a special painting like that, standing in front of it at the Louvre. Yeah. Interesting.
I'm tempted to go off about NFTs, but I'm not gonna.
I know. Not gonna touch that shit.
Not gonna go. Not gonna do it.
Not NFT. Not effing touching that.
Nice.
Yeah. So that to me is, I'm cool with it going away, because I've built a pretty good system of being like, of vetting who is buying what I've got. And because my process is its own experience, which I mostly get to sit with, then like it's with me once that goes. Sometimes I've only started doing this for myself like 4 or 5 years, and like there's definitely been times where lately just going back through my hard drives and being like, where was that one photograph that I had? And I'm like kicking myself that I can't find what folder I put it in. And I'm like, well, you know what? If I'm going to delve into this philosophy that there's, meaning in letting it go in some sense, then I just have to be okay with this angle that I thought I took not being there. And that's just what it is.
Yeah.
So I took there's multiple pieces that would sell immediately. I'd build it, make it, paint it, put it together, take like 2 photos of it, and then put it on Instagram, and someone would immediately buy it. And then I would be like, oh, it's moving so fast. I can't even, I know they want to buy it because of my process even then was solid enough. But I didn't take all these other angles that I wanted to take. Shit. I wish I had done that. But then I'm like, that's fine, because I can remember how cool it was. And I can guarantee that it was probably it wasn't nearly as cool as maybe I think it was. So it helps to blend, blur out the lines of okay, you know what? That was an early piece. I think there was some stuff that I don't get to see the blemishes the same way I have blemishes now. I don't get to see those if I just preserve
interesting
it in it being something that goes away.
This is existential. That. This is, yeah.
But it's a really thoughtful way to regard your art, I feel like, because, as an artist myself, I kind of hear how Sky is talking about it. And I kind of reflect back on the way that I look back at art, and I do feel like no matter what you create, as you go about creating it and time passes, inevitably, a lot of us look back at things we've made and go, oh, that's where I was then, or I could have done better, or oof, that was rough, or, a lot of judgment. Right. And I think that it's really kind of meditative, actually, like the way that you're describing how how you found your comfortable place to go about selling these pieces. And also, not to focus so much on this obsessive, capturing, I must capture, I must have this exact picture. All that is, I think it can be paralyzing. Yeah.
It's very important to capture and document. I'm not at all saying if you are making pieces, don't capture it. I'm saying think about don't capturing it. Think about it's okay if you didn't do it. I guarantee there's photos that I do wish, or if I knew that I was missing that photo, I'd be like, damn, that sucks that I don't have that photo. But the piece Colette has one of my pieces.
I do.
And I am glad to not ever take a photo again of that one, especially if I could make it. I do every once in a while. I do a replica of something for somebody. Mm-hmm. Somebody saw it. It's already been purchased, and I'm willing to make it again. And it's the best thing to be okay, I can redo this now, and I remember most of it, but some parts I don't. So it's a revisit. It's a re-exploration. It's like doing it all over again and not playing different notes with it. But I get to find out new ways to either make it better or screw it up. So that part's really, really fun.
Yeah,
I think
it's really cool. I like that a lot.
Your philosophy here is so good for the artist's well-being, as you've laid out, your perception of your own art and your mental well-being around the perfectionism that all creative people probably have. So I love it. And I simultaneously have mixed feelings about the capturing, because I do capture obsessively, and I hear that conflict in your description too. And I have two other thoughts on it. One is you said, open the closet and 500 million photos fall out, and do we need all these photos? And you're right, we don't need them. But I just have the sneaking suspicion that we're going to start seeing tools emerging in the next 5 to 10 years, AI tools that can go through all your emails that you've ever sent and go through all the photos you've ever taken and pluck out or help us prioritize. Like you were saying, oh, where is that? Oh, I put it in a folder and I can't find it. Well, a robot will be like, oh, you're looking for this? Got it. Here it is. There will be ways to find the things that are important and then hand them over to the human. And the human will be like, yes, this is important. I am so glad I captured it. And it will engender us to just take 1,000 photos of everything and let the bots sort it out later. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but that is useful to me and will be useful in the future that we are heading towards, right? So there's that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that strikes me is like you said, this is a really good philosophy for the artist, but I get a lot of value going on the internet and looking at something, made by a creator that I really admire, and then scrolling all the way back to the beginning and seeing how bad the first thing was.
Yeah.
Because then I can see that this is a human being that evolved and got better. And then I can say, well, now I can do this too. Or this is within my grasp. Like, I don't know what Leonardo da Vinci's first painting looked like because I assume it is lost to time. So all we have are the genius things, and there's no and he is superhuman to us, mere mortals, except that he was not. He had a process and he had some trajectory. So in the 1500s, we could not document or save anything. Now we can, and I think there is value in documenting everything so that there is someday 1% of 1% of all the photos and emails that we've ever created will have value. We just don't know which ones they are right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, it's just devil's advocate for digital hoarding, which I tend to be a digital hoarder. And it's not a good quality, but there is value somewhere. Someday there will be.
Well, the good news about being able to scroll back and see somebody's old work in order to educate potentially on like, where did you start, is that every artist now seems to want to make video showing their process. Right. And you will only see more of it the easier this gets. TikTok will be all educational videos. Well, no, not all, but at least in some corners of TikTok, it will be just, here you go. Here's how you do this.
It's become an art that's a new art form unto itself, of like the sped up makeup tutorial where you see the blank face and then you 2 minutes later you see the whole thing, and it's like it is fascinating to enjoy that. I get it. I get that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting counter thought to it. Because it brings up the magician's code of it, is what it brings up, which is the like, we should know more. We should just know more, and we should be exchanging this information easily. It's just at this point with social media right now. I've just got through a very large sort of, I don't know, a break with social media of being like, there's too much happening. There's too fucking much happening, and I need to delete some of it from my existence, or I'm gonna go crazy.
Yep.
And I don't know where that line is, because it's something else to see it up against, like, see the open and free education of the internet, where we all grew up with, like, seeing YouTube start and being like, whoa, you can just do stuff on the internet. That's wild. You can just show this or that. You can write without, like, and just use your own ability and your own agency to create videos and do this or that. That's so exciting. And then see it turn into what it is now, and realize that it is all up against the currency of the internet for engagement. Just drive engagement all the time. is like so debilitating sometimes. So I don't know where that line is to be like, we should have this be free and open, and the magician's code should not exist, but also embody like letting things just happen outside of it. That's mostly where my brain is at lately with things. So it's like, what, I don't know. Yeah. That's that whole thing.
But we're seeing the pendulum swing back, not across the board, but I am fascinated with the rise of Discord because and we're all there and we all have our communities there. And in a world of news feeds where it is all about the attention economy, as Sky just described, so that we keep you there as long as possible, so that we can shove ads into the feed. Here comes Discord that's like, no, this is just a place for like-minded people to gather around anything. It started with games, of course, but whatever you're into, everyone come on in. And it doesn't matter how much time you spend in or out, only that you get value from this place that you're inhabiting with an actual community. And it is monetized through premium features. It is not monetized through advertising. And if it ever were monetized through advertising, it would be ruined instantly, you know? Yeah. And so we as a society are craving 4-hour podcasts and Discord communities where real conversations with real humans last for multiple days and weeks. We are less and less interested in like, here's a thing and here's another thing that's unrelated to that thing, and here's an ad and here's a totally different thing. Oh, and is this thing trustworthy or not? Is this real or fake? I don't know. And here's the next thing. Like, obviously that still plagues us, but that doesn't have to be the be all end all of the internet. And I think smart people are starting to congregate. They're doing what you just described, Sky, of like deleting a lot of that shit from their visual lives, from their lives. Yeah. And then hanging out in slower, calmer places, I think.
Yeah.
I am, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, I am. I agree with that. I mean, anyone that's known me for a long time can tell you that, early Twitter, early Instagram, whatever, I was very active and I enjoyed it at that time, and now I've noticed that I've started to turn completely in the opposite direction, where I have almost no presence on Twitter, where I have, on Instagram, I kind of just narrowed it down to where I was only posting art. I just, I felt like that's all I really wanted to put there at that time. And I started withdrawing my personal life from like the eyes of everyone. And I feel like if the way I'm putting it, I feel like it could come across as, oh, why? Like, you must be depressed. But it wasn't that. It was that it went, well, withdrawal depression, right? Like a lot of people think of it that way. But for me, it was just like, it was basically what you said, Sky. I was just like, there's too much. Like, and I'm not enjoying that, like I'm just not enjoying that the way I was. And I didn't have like FOMO. There was no need to keep up, blah, 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 blah. Like it wasn't any of that. It was just like, God, leave me the fuck alone. And that's honestly how I feel. Like I'm not, I don't spend a lot of time like mega scrolling through a lot of apps anymore. I really don't. Like, I don't know what I was looking for before when I was doing it. Or I don't know if I was just like getting a big dopamine hit because of my ADHD, but like. But
do you find I think of it as a value curve of like the things at the top of the algorithm are usually like, yep, these are the 3 to 4 people that I really do care about, close friends, family, that the algorithm is like, yeah, you're constantly interacting with these people. And then you scroll past the first ad and then the 5th and 6th, you're like, literally, this provides zero value. Whatever this content is does not matter to me at all. And that's my cutoff point where I'm like, and I'm done. Close the app.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree.
Absolutely.
I would agree.
Definitely.
Like it's just noise. That's the thing, and it's like, I don't, I'm sure there's people that would be like, well, hey, you follow me, I'm not noise. And it's like, yeah, I get it. But like, I don't know. I guess maybe
that's the tough part.
Right. It's like maybe the summary is
you like.
Right, exactly. Like sometimes I'm like, man, maybe I should go through and just like cut all my social media down. I've done this several times. Like,
right, yeah.
I let all these people follow me on Facebook. Well, I'm going to go remove 500 people, which let me tell you, you have to remove them one by one because Facebook does not want you to get rid of friends. It does not want you to do that. So I've done that, cutting down and like, it helped a little, but for the most part, for me, it's been just kind of like, I don't know. I just like, it's too much. So I think that's the summary, really. It's just, it's too much information.
We'll right the ship. And I don't mean, I'm not saying that as like a foolish optimism, but like, you're seeing the backlash and you're seeing the slow trickle of like, we'll just find other ways, and that is happening already, and it's not going to solve the problem, but this is the beginning of the internet. Really, we're only just getting started, and there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of pitfalls ahead. I want a metaverse to exist. I just don't want Facebook to be the leader in that space. I want it to be interoperable. I want the World Wide Web is the metaverse that I want, where it's like you host a website on your computer and I'll host it on my computer, and they can talk to each other. And imagine if that was VR. Like that's fucking awesome. But not if Facebook owns it. And I was getting sad the other day of like, a friend of mine was like, asking like very like basic questions about VR. I'm like, I'm getting my son an Xbox. Like, can we get a VR? I'm like, unfortunately, there is no VR platform for Xbox. You'd have to get like a really big PC, or you got to strap a Facebook box to your face, and that I don't recommend that if you can avoid it. And I was getting bummed out. I'm like, the best. By far and away, the best wireless all-in-one strap it to your face and go into VR experience for the average consumer is Facebook. There's no other competitor right now. And I wish, I want to see Valve turn the Steam Deck into a VR headset. And that's going to be the one where you don't need the computer. You just buy it at Best Buy and get going. Like I want that to happen quickly because I don't want Facebook to eat it all. And, I was feeling bummed out about that state of affairs, but we'll get there. We may have to wait a little while.
Good times.
Yeah.
Let's pick this party up.
The age-old social media.
The age-old social media. Yeah. It's good. I love having it. But let's change course. Let's divert away from the metaverse and into the pancakeverse, if you will. Flat screens, two-dimensional, and on those screens, be they mobile, be they personal computer, or gaming console. What are we playing right now? And we're going to throw it over to our guest of honor, Sky. I know it has not been long since we've chatted, but what else is cooking on the, is it more Lunch Lady or what have you?
It's definitely Lunch Lady, but I'm not gonna talk about Lunch Lady anymore.
I like the idea that Sky plays Lunch Lady. Like when
I talked about it, even though I really love it. Like
no. But I love this idea that those people who play like Destiny 2 or Final Fantasy 14, they just keep going back. For Sky, it's Lunch Lady. He's like, I'm in season 7. It's great.
I don't know if I should. I don't know. I think it's all right. I'm going to say just a few things.
Let's go back.
Yes, it's Lunch Lady. I really enjoy it. I said last time, I just want to correct a few things that I felt like, what? You said it didn't look good. That's not fair. It's made by one fella, and it looks really great for.
No. Wait, I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. I said it looks awesome. Were you correcting yourself?
I'm correcting myself. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, you did. You did say it because
I was
awesome,
looking at gameplay.
Awesome.
I was like, it looks fluid. It looks smooth. It the game great. Engine is nice.
Yes. Once you play it, you'll be like, oh wait, this is a great game. Mm-hmm. Once you look at it on the surface, you're like, I don't know about this. The gameplay looks good, but What? If you're not into that,
what's wrong with that guy's arms?
Oh yeah. If you want to see a pair of shoulders, this game has a real pair of shoulders.
Well, we found the episode title. Go on.
Yeah, so it's a good one, but that's all I'm going to say. I recommend it to anybody who would like a game like Lunch Lady. I don't think it. I will say that I think everybody who has played it with me has come away being like, you know what? I want to keep playing. So
Nice.
If I can be a gateway drug into Lunch Lady, I'll do that.
I always know when Lunch Lady's being played in this home because I'm usually in the bedroom reading, like, because Patrick tends to play games a little later. And so I'll just start hearing like howling and like delighted laughter, which I always know what's happening. I'm like, that's good. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. We're like, well, whatever. But I'm not going to talk about Lunch Lady anymore. Since then, I booted up since last we talked, which was a week ago.
Yes, a full 7 days.
Yes, I booted up Her Story, which is a mystery game.
Okay.
And I meant to. This is one of those games that's been on my list for like years, and finally picked it up, and I really love it. I needed something different than actiony Metroid. I can't play another Metroid game. I can't do another one for like 2 years. And so I've been playing Her Story, which is a like detective mystery game, and it is all like Windows 95 interface, computer screen. Ooh. You're given. It works based off of a like search database. So you are basically watching these cut up videos of this interview with a woman whose husband has been killed, and you're trying to search through and find all of the video files from these videos there's like 7 different days of interviews that you have to watch. There's like 90 video files. I don't know how many video files there are, but you're given this search database to look through the library of video files, because all the video files have been transcribed into a digital format. And when you search like robbery, and you may get like 20 hits for robbery, but you can only see 5 video files. And so you watch these video files, and she's speaking and telling her side of the story. There's no other dialogue besides her, as far as I know. And you basically pull information from her to try to find the rest of the video files in the search database. So you may type robbery at first, and then eventually you say like, oh, let me try armed robbery to like narrow the field down to try to find some of the video files that maybe only include armed robbery. So you're basically just using a search function in this video. That's the whole mechanic in this game. It's just a search bar.
That's wild. Yeah. Because it's like, just from what you're describing and also seeing a few images, it's like a full motion video.
Yep.
Narrative game. But then when you're talking about like putting search queries, it's reminding me of text adventures, and also like adventure games where you had to do text input, like pick up sword or whatever, and those combined is something that I've never seen. Like this defies genre classification.
Also, the guy that made Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which is extremely random.
What?
Okay.
Yeah. I just put it in because I wanted to see the images, and I saw that come up, and it was like, I guess that was one of the first things he ever worked on. And then he went on to start making like his own independent titles. And I was like, well, that's actually really cool, because that game had a lot of really neat ideas, but this is like very unusual. Like, yeah. I love the layout and how different it is. And then he's got another game that is mentioned below that is coming out next year called Immortality.
Yeah.
That's fascinating looking too.
Yeah. It's like his, from what I hear, this is like his thing is the full motion video format. And he sort of, upends what you expect from it.
So cool.
Through like a cool central mechanic like this search bar directory. So I have worked my way through over half of the video files, and I see no end in sight. I have no idea what other search terms I'm supposed to possibly use. You type in like one search term after the other, just like, okay, this person's name is so-and-so. I guess I'll type in Dean. I'll type in, I'm omitting names and stuff because I don't want to give anything away. Yeah. Because I'm through like a few twists already, and I'm like, what the hell? There's still more. I'm only halfway through. What the heck's happening?
Does inputting random terms yield anything that's like, well, this is random, but it surfaced one file, and maybe now I can watch that and get a clue? Is that useful at all?
Yes and no. You'll find if you just throw a Hail Mary on like knowing this is a classic mystery based game, then you could try some stuff, and some will work and some will not. But it has been, in my few attempts to do that, pretty fruitless, which is nice. I like that you can't just be like,
you can't like break the game. But I wonder, like, if you knew the secret code, not code, but like if you knew if someone spoiled the game for you, could you type it in, or is it somehow gated?
Yeah.
Like almost like it's like an open world game of like, if you start Breath of the Wild, you can just walk right up to Ganon's castle if you want to.
I mean, it seems to me, the funny part is I don't understand with this. It does not give you a direct sort of goal, except to figure out what her story is, the full story. And so that is, to me, that implies you need to find all of these video files. And there's a little like checkbox sort of thing you can pull up to check to see, I've pulled up 40 of 80. I've pulled up however many there are. And you could do that, but it wouldn't, because of the central search function being capped at 5 videos that you can ever see at one time.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You can't just like type one in and get all the files up, especially because there's some that only include one word. It's all stenographed. Like everything that is from the video file is what is included in the transcription, and that's what you pull up. Yeah. So you can't just like, some things will only have that one word.
Yeah. So in order to get beyond the first 5, you really need to know specific combinations of words to surface the next, to dig deeper. And that's a really interesting mechanic.
Yeah.
And very hard to, like, you think about like, oh, this is just a bunch of video files in a database and it tells a story. Like, not that that's easy, but like, it seems easier than building Skyrim or something, whatever. And then you're no, actually, this is very complex. It sounds very complex.
It's very clever with how it builds, there's constantly, I'll be like, well, I guess I don't have any new ideas. So I'll just click back through. There's like a, history of search words that you've used that you can click back through and see, which video files came up for this one.
Okay, good.
So you'll hit dead ends and be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to search next. And just rewatching a video file will make you go, oh wait, she mentioned something about this. I should use that word.
Do you achieve progress? Like, meaning like when you uncover, like, how is progress measured, or is it just you taking notes in order to get to the next thing? Like, do you could, it's sort of like story beats. Certain story beats are revealed. There's certain animations that happen every once in a while and musical beats that happen. They're non-diegetic in what they do, where you're not there. It's like clear that the musical beats are just happening sort of outside of the world of the game. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then there's other things that happen in the world of the game, which is all, the visual is just a computer screen. You're just looking at a computer screen with like, it looks like old Windows, just clicking on old programs. But you can kind of see your reflection in it. Your reflection in quotes. So there's a cool element of like, sometimes the lighting that is reflecting off of this slightly glazed glass will like flicker, or there'll be like police lights that come on, because I think the story is that you're in a police department right now and you're converting these old video files from an old mystery.
Okay.
So I think that's sort of the backdrop of what's going on. And then there's musical beats. There's also just the progress bar of seeing like, how many video files are left. You don't have to look at, not like that sort of thing. You don't ever have to even check to see if you've pulled up all the files in the database. And then there's just achievements if you want to see like that you brought up this. They're not spoiled until you achieve them, but there's certain like kooky weird ones that come up when you find a certain file. So they pepper in some like weird little video files where it's like that doesn't seem to play into this, at least as far as I know right now. But they're fun to see that she will do a thing. So yeah, that's how I would say that's how you gauge progress in it.
Yeah, this sounds awesome. I've never
It really does.
Yeah, heard anything quite like it. Have either of you played Hypnospace Outlaw?
I have not.
No.
Are you familiar with it at all?
I've heard the name.
You both would love it, and I won't talk too much about it, but briefly, like because you're talking about like an operating system, and it's like a Windows 95 90s looking operating system, and I'm seeing from the screenshots here. Hypnospace Outlaw it's so you'll really love it. It's point and click, and it's basically like navigating through websites on a GeoCities-esque
what
system. And your goal, you're hired as like an internet cop, basically, and you're trying to making sure that nobody's doing hate speech or putting like risque images or copyright infringement. Mm-hmm. But as you explore these various disconnected web pages, you start to see the interconnection between the pages, and it's like Dylan's like a cool video game dude, and then like but clearly he's bullying this nerd who also has a website, and then this other person is like super Christian and she's like praying for something, and it's like you're just navigating these sites, but you're starting to solve mysteries and interconnectivity, and it's really funny, and it's got really good like MIDI music, like all the pages, and everything about it is like chef's kiss. Remember this from the 90s moment, like under construction gifs, and find my secret page hidden on my Angel Fire. I think you both will love it. I really enjoyed it. I did not complete it because it's essentially ends up being, it feels like a puzzle game, and I felt like I was hitting walls, and I also don't love like sitting at my computer pointing and clicking. Like I really like to get away and be on the couch. So I recommend it highly, even though I fell off of it. But check out Hypnospace Outlaw for sure.
That looks fun. This looks really funny. I've just added it to the wish list. Ever growing.
Sorry to increase your backlog, but I thought I'd
why apologize?
I have no problem with
it. What else? Anything else on the agenda there, Sky?
I'm going to replay Dodgeball Academia. I didn't get to say anything about it last time because I think that's my game of the year. I loved it so much.
Wow.
It's such a fun one. If you haven't played it, it's so fun. That was a surprise game that I didn't expect to find or play, because it just, if I hadn't been recommended by somebody I appreciate very much, I would probably not have picked it up, and I'm glad I did. It's a dodgeball game that plays sort of like an NBA Jam, but it is an RPG, and it has a very cute, fun art style. A little bit. What do you call it? Cute anime-y. It's very fun. You basically play very fast-paced 3-on-3 dodgeball games, or up to 3-on-3, and it all takes place at a academy for dodgeball. It's very funny. I've grown apart from RPGs, and this was the best RPG I've played in a long time, because you level up, you get new equipment. It's awesome. So
I haven't played a great RPG that I've loved in quite a while. And that I too feel like as soon as you said, like, I've kind of grown apart from RPGs, I was like, oh, I don't want to feel that way, but that's how I feel too.
Yeah. Well, once you admit it, you know what? Then you can patch. You can patch it back up.
Right. I mean, I did spend 120 hours on Persona 5, so maybe it's right. Maybe it's just you know, and I hate to sound like old, but I mean, there was a time where, like, you know, RPGs didn't come out. We weren't so drenched in them. And so I think that, like, you know, at that time they were more exciting for me. And now it's like there's so many that, and, you know, many of them may be very good, but I think it's just a glut of them. And so often I'm just not interested because I keep seeing the same type of things over and over.
Right,
you know?
Right. Searching for who has the freshest take. Like, is there something new that can be introduced? Even if it's got RPG bones, is there a mechanic that can be laid over the top here?
Yeah.
Does Dodgeball Academia share DNA with the Persona? And I'm also thinking okay.
No,
but I mean, like action, like there's two parts. One is like you said, like an NBA, like an action sequence or a strategy sequence, and then the other part is like forming relationships with the classmates, like Fire Emblem kind of. Or am I way off?
No, it's stripped of anything like that. It's the RPG element comes from embodying this character and leveling up the characters and the team that you build, which is chosen. Not to spoil anything, but it's very much like an RPG where you there's a dedicated cast of characters that become your ensemble, that you use your roster, that you slowly accrue over the course of the game. And that's where the RPG element is that you play these matches, which is an action sequence. This is the NBA Jam, like 3-on-3 mode, and playing them, I forget if doing well in them earns you more. I think you just earn the same amount no matter what you do. But playing in these matches, these dodgeball matches, earns you experience. So you level up through that. You can apply those points to your set of stats that you have which help you in your matches. And I will say that the other thing it shares is that it reminds me of Pokemon in a lot of ways, based upon its overworld. Its overworld looks a lot like, and I think there's a very clear influence of how Pokemon's overworld has shaped what this world looks like. That all the way down to like the place where you heal your characters looks and sounds exactly like a Poke Center. Once you detect it, you will be like, I can't unhear this. You literally you literally go to sleep at this place and it plays the Pokemon Rest theme, which would sound like, oh, that's how do they get away with that? It is fantastic. I love that they did that. I love that they're very like open about like, we were influenced by Pokemon for this part, but you will find way more in this game to love than just, or this homage to Pokemon. Because it doesn't share anything else with it, honestly. So
right. And you're saying, and this came out this past year, and you're saying game of the year for you, personal game of the year.
I loved it. It's either that or Village. I loved Resident Evil Village.
Man, I've been thinking so much about stuff to play lately, and it's like been on my list because I've been playing Animal Crossing. I played the new content when it came out, and it's been really fun, but I can tell I'm getting kind of close to the point where I've like played it. I've played the majority of it. There's stuff left, but like I'm ready to play something else. And so I've been like looking at all my stuff. And of course, like everyone else, I have an overwhelming wish list. So I'm like, what to play? And one of the big things I was considering was Village. And I was like, I watched a lot of Village played when Patrick played it, but I didn't play it. So that's
that's right. I was like, did you play it? No, you were watching.
Well, we both wanted to play it, and we got it on the computer. And so, we have a computer room, which is also my office. And so we were like, let's, go and get our beer and sit in front of the computer together. And, maybe we'll trade off. But then it kind of got to the point where I was so busy watching and I was just like, he was just playing. So that's been high up. But then Spiritfarer also has new content, so I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to get into that or not, because I don't know if, as much as I adore that game, which Matt and I have gone on and on about, I'm not sure if I want to get into it right now because it's so emotional for me. And I don't know if I feel like crying. Because I will. So actually what I was thinking, like right before the show, I was thinking about it and I was like, I actually fired up Stardew for the first time in a really long time. And I was looking at it and I was thinking, I think I just want like a cozy little, like wholesome kind of like farming crafting game. Mm-hmm. Of course, I've got many of those on my wish list. So it's like a matter of, well, what would I choose? But, you know, one nice thing I was thinking about Stardew in general is that it did spawn so many of this, I guess we would just call it kind of like, you know, the wholesome games like category. And I like it. I'm really into that. So, you know, will I play all of them? No, probably not. But like, I'd really be in the mood for something like that right now. So, and I guess it's because I've been playing Animal Crossing. So it's like, I like that groove, but I'm ready to explore like a new, but maybe similar-ish groove.
Yep. Perfect. What platform are you going back to Stardew on?
I had it on PC and I played the majority of it on PC, but I tell you what, one thought I genuinely had, because I never got through the first year, I was like, you know, I'm kind of tempted to buy this on Switch because I like you just said, I love playing on my sofa and start playing it on Switch. Either that or find another similar game to play on Switch, because that's just kind of where I like to play that type of game.
For sure. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. It was on sale on Switch. I played through it on PC there's no completion, I guess, but like to my own satisfaction, really enjoyed it. But since it's been years since then, and so there is a variety of new content in the base game, in the current game, you know, and then it was super cheap months ago on Switch, and my wife was super into Animal Crossing, as you alluded to. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to grab this for whatever, $5. And then one day when you're ready to branch out, we're going to play Stardew. And, you know, I hope I'm a little scared because I really want to revisit it on the Switch. And I hope it performs well there. There's no reason
it on the Switch.
You did. So any gripes, and I'll warn you that I'm really particular and I get angry. Like, this is a 2D pixel art game, and it's sold a bajillion copies. Like, it should be flawless on this machine. There's no reason it can't be. And then sometimes it's not. And so what was your experience there?
I don't know about nothing stood out for me technically. Good. But I loved Stardew, and I didn't expect it to like Stardew Valley because I've mentioned it before to folks who will hear me or maybe make like they're hearing me, is that I have said that I started Stardew Valley shortly after playing Harvest Moon, and I realized while playing Harvest Moon that I really don't enjoy Harvest Moon, and I was extremely bored by it, which is clearly this is not for me. I'm gonna step aside from this. So, but then Christine really wanted to play it, and I was like, I'm not playing that. I'm not gonna do it. I can't do it. I just tried Harvest Moon, and no way. And then and I played it after she got into it, played it for like a month before I was like, all right, I'll pick up the controller and see. And she was like, the fishing sucks. I hate this fishing.
Oh, the fishing's so bad. I hate it.
And I booted. Well, I'll tell you what. I booted up. I went straight to fishing, and it was like, this is my. I was nailing it out of the gate. Was like, oh, fishing sucks, huh? Look at this. This is the best fishing I've ever played.
No, but this wedge issue, this polarizing debate. I love this. I loved the fishing, and I loved more than that. I was like, then I played it for like 2 months straight because I was not fishing. I should be very clear. I didn't love it that much, but the dungeoneering was like, I had to keep going with the dungeoneering. But that it's got
awesome.
It's got something for everyone, and I understand why Harvest Moon, especially the older classic ones, would be boring by modern standards. And Stardew solves it because it's like, oh, you don't want to wait for crops to go in the dungeon. You don't want to do action stuff, go have relationships. You don't want to do that, go what about this desert over here? Like there's definitely 1,000 things to do. Love that.
It's far more like we're gonna build this for a wider base rather than just the Harvest Moon crowd.
Yeah.
I loved Harvest Moon.
I never played a Harvest Moon.
That's the genesis of it. Stardew so is very fascinating to me because here's a guy who obviously had a love of Harvest Moon, a very niche, small thing that many people loved, I'm sure mostly in Japan or whatever, and he's like, what if we bring this back? And then blew the gates open, and now every fucking video game made after that is like, oh, there's some Stardew Valley in this. And I'm being facetious, I'm exaggerating, but like only a little. Like
it was part of that crowd of people going, what about this type of game? Let's bring that back. And you got Stardew Valley, and you got Cuphead, and you got Hollow Knight, where it was like, we need to bring these types of games back to the forefront. And then everything after that was those games.
You're right about Hollow Knight, because Metroidvanias were basically reserved for Metroid, and there weren't many of them. But then I think Hollow Knight was like, oh yeah, these are good. Oh, and Ori also was the big landmark there.
Yep. Yep.
There's an interesting. I like viewing media as a spider web and seeing like, okay, there are moments where the spiderweb branches out, and there are certain games at the center. Like obviously Minecraft is one of the biggest spiderwebs you could imagine, because that was so fresh and new at its moment, and now everything, like even Stardew Valley, has the bar at the bottom for all your tools and items, the way Minecraft did. And so it's this merging and this branching of elements that became other things. And the constellation, the Stardew is there. The hotbar,
that's a fun one to think about, is how many games right now that still come out with a hotbar on them that it might have been in games before that, but it was now, thanks to Minecraft, like games that don't look like Minecraft have that hotbar and are built off of that.
Yes, exactly. Yep. All right. Well, now I feel like I want to play Stardew Valley again. So
while we were talking, I actually went to the Nintendo site and bought the copy so when we finish, I'm probably going to do what I always do when I like want to revisit a game and it's been too long, is that I just start a new file and just start again. And I don't mind doing that, because like I have a few save files that are like deep into the first year, but I would rather just begin again because my brain,
there's so much new stuff. There might be trajectories there that you would go down that weren't apparent the first time, for sure.
Right. So, so that's what I'm going to do. But that sounds like a really nice Monday evening, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, quick question, though. Did either of you ever play it cooperatively, where it's two players on the same farm?
I did a little bit with Patrick in the beginning. We only did it once or twice, but we had fun doing it.
Do you recall if is it limiting in any way, meaning like, hey, we're starting it co-op and we're doing our things together and it's really fun and it's split screen, but then it's Tuesday night and I don't want to play, your partner doesn't want to play. But
from what I recall, you can totally. So your farm, it has two little houses on it instead of one, and you and your co-op partner. So you do have to start the game together. Like, I don't think you can start it and then like be like, hey, you want to join me? Like, it doesn't work like that. But I remember that like we played, and then like 2 days later I wanted to play and Patrick couldn't for some reason. And so I was able to play alone with like no problems. So,
but the way it's different from Animal Crossing, which is obviously real time, but I guess it's not a real major concern, but like, hey, player 1 is advancing the seasons, and if player 2 wanted to catch certain fish or crops or whatever, you're sort of going ahead without them, which obviously you got to work that out with your co-op partner. But
sure.
I ended up playing Stardew wrong, which was that I got this beautiful, chill, perfect game. Got very stressed out by the time element, where it's like the days did not feel long enough to me, and because there's so much to do, I felt compelled to do all the things every single day. And it's like, well, you just can't talk to everyone and water your crops and go to the mine. You can't do it, and that stressed me out. And I've made a promise to myself, when I go back, I gotta like remember like, oh yeah, spring will come again. I can just do this next time. It's a long game,
Right.
Play the long game.
It's very forgiving, which is nice. Yeah. Wow. I didn't think about that.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how forgiving it was on my first playthrough, because I must have gotten it not early, but I was playing it before the meta wisdom around it was emerging probably. So
holy moly. If it had been very strict about that, I would have kicked that game out of my house.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. It's really tempting sometimes to like do that kind of like min-max, like I'm going to do it all behavior.
Yeah.
And I've realized that it does wrench the joy out of a lot of like stuff for me.
Yes. Especially a game that's just made to be a chill experience.
Persona was that way for me, was like feeling like I want to do more. And I feel like the time you have during the day, I can't, because you're limited to what, like 3 actions during the day or something.
Yeah.
Technically. As I was always like, man, I did one thing today. Could I please do more? And I'm like, okay, I'm obviously wanting a different game. I should just, I just want a different game. I should not be holding this game to some other regard.
It's an interesting thing, because like Animal Crossing is like, you have infinite time, really. Like you can lay on the couch for 8 hours and do all the things, but in a way, especially in the early stages, there's not. That's how the game breaks. Is like once you get the freedom to do anything you want, then you're like, well, there's literally no more leaves or bells on the island. So now I'm going to fly to other people's islands and just rack up the bells or whatever. And then Colette and I have talked about this. That broke it on the other flip side. We ruined it.
Right. Right.
What's wrong with us?
Until now, at least. I mean, I've been able to pick it back up. Like a friend came and visited me the other day in the game, and she was like, oh my gosh, like you did all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, I paid off Tom Nook. And then, I kind of like needed other stuff to do. She's like, you paid off Tom Nook? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, wow, I feel like I'm never going to get the money to do it. And I was like, so I was like, you don't have a lot of money in your bank? And she's like, no, she's like, I just sell fruit every day. I was like, hold on. So I went to my ABD and I got out 1 million bells.
Hold my beer.
Right. And I have 4 million left. This is after I paid him off. And after I went to other islands and sold the turnips and did all the crazy ass shit we did a couple of years ago. And so I just like walked back up to her and just dropped her 1 million bells. And she was speechless. She was like, what? And I was like, go have fun, like in your town.
Yeah.
Like, go have fun. And I felt so happy. I was like, it sucks like that. I feel like I haven't really like, I sucked the enjoyment out of it for myself, but I was like, finally, I can do something good. I can give this to another person.
You can give back.
You were evil Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. Trying to like satisfy your sins, make up for your sins there. Yeah. Like by giving to charity. That's amazing. That's amazing. We are different kinds of gamers. Of like, this is a person who your friend loves the game as much as anyone, but did not think to like game the system or min-max. She's just like, well, I'll sell these fruits today, and that's what I'll do. And it's
because some people don't do that, Matt. That's the thing. What I mean. Yeah. Like, can you even conceive that some people don't feel the need to do that? Whereas like you and I are just like, must wrench all fun out.
Yeah. when I played that, I did the like change your clock thing when it was still possible to do that.
That's a crime.
And is it? Oh, well, you know what? Lock me up. I loved it. And until they took it away. And then I was so mad. And I was talking to people who didn't do that. And who were like, how dare you? And I was like, you don't understand. That's not how I play this game. And if they didn't want to put it, they didn't have to put it in the game, and they clearly didn't want my type around anymore. So fine, I'm out. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Why do I feel like you are cheating, but me going on the entire internet to find the best turnip price? A system clearly outside of the parameters of this game world is A-okay.
You know what?
You know what I mean? Like I'm great and you're a fuckhead. Yeah. Colette, what else? I mean, it sounds like you're searching. You're in between. You're mulling
That's
the next
exactly where I am. But I feel like, when you're in that searching place and you feel too overwhelmed by all your new prospects and nothing is just like grabbing you at that moment, like, yes, play me now. It's nice to go back to a game that's kind of like a comfort game. Matt, I think we've scanned over that topic in the past, like, the idea of comfort games and like what comfort games are just like a, warm teddy bear for you. And I was like, actually, Animal Crossing's been a really nice comfort game, but now I think that Stardew might also be a really good one to go back to. And there's so much I didn't do. So I think that's pretty much what is on my plate. Just gonna try to go back to Stardew.
That's perfect. I love it. I'm excited for you. It's making me want to go. Keep me posted on, I know you're not as sensitive to performance either, but like my perception from what I've been reading is like, it works great, except for these random weird hitches on the Switch version only. And I'm like, oh no, God, please don't ruin it for me. Like, I really want it to be like that cozy teddy bear. And that will
for sure
mess it up for me, unfortunately. So, well, so speaking of comfort games and returning, the one thing that I did as I started last night, I don't know why, every now and then I get an itch to be like, I really want like a 4X strategy game. And I'm always like, ooh, what about this? What about this? And I'm like, or I could just play Civilization, the best 4X strategy. There's nothing better. Like, why? What am I looking for? Just go back and play it. And the only place I own it is on Switch, which is a very good, serviceable version of the game, and fired it up last night. And I'm like, I fucking love this game, and it's great. I can lay on the couch next to my wife, and we've got a fire going in the living room. She's watching a Christmas movie, and I'm listening to podcasts playing Civilization 6 on a little Switch Lite, and it is
so great.
It's a beautiful thing. So that's, I mean, people know Civ 6, so I won't go any further there. But the other thing I grabbed, there was some Switch sale a couple weeks ago, and there was a bunch of random stuff on my wish list on sale, whatever. And it was nothing that I was like, oh, I gotta play this urgently. But I was like, you know what, I'm gonna grab this while it's hot. And I picked up Evoland Legendary Edition. Any familiarity with this at all?
Name again sounds familiar. Evoland.
It's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those. It's been around for a long time. It's not new. And it is an homage to RPGs. And the best way I can describe it, it's 2 games in one package. It was on sale for like $5. I was like, you know what? I want to own this. I want to get to this one day. I'm going to grab it. And I was and recently I was in the exact same position as you, Colette, where I'm like, I am in between things. I don't know what I want. I know I want something on Switch. And so I was like, fuck it. Yeah, here we go. Let's just see what Evoland is all about. And it is an homage to all the RPGs of yore. And the main mechanic is that you start the game in Game Boy graphics, like really old school, could not get any more simple than these graphics. And every time you open a treasure chest, it adds something mechanical to the game. So you start and there's treasure chests on your left and right, and it's like Game Boy, I guess it's 8-bit, but it's monochrome, right? And you can't move. And I'm like, what the fuck? The fucking game's broken, like right out the gate. And then you move the stick and you're like, oh, you can only move left. And you move left and you get the left treasure chest, and it's like, congrats, you unlocked moving right. And I'm like, okay. So I move right, I get the right treasure chest, and it's like, congrats, now you can move in all directions. And you're like, okay. And so you start to move around this monochrome world, and every time you get a chest, it's like, and now you have a sword, and now you can move diagonally, and now it's like, oh, and now you've unlocked color graphics. And so what it becomes is like you're sort of painting the world in as you experience it, and it's really fun to get treasure chests because, in a typical RPG, a treasure chest's going to be some gold, or it's going to be a new weapon or armor or whatever. And in this one, it's like, ooh, what like nostalgic thing will this next treasure chest open up? Right. And so it's like it's this linear progression homage to RPGs, but also a parody of them. So it's got your nameless protagonist who eventually, mild spoiler here, but it's like eventually his name is revealed and it's Clink. It's not Link, it's Clink, and you meet a girl who is a magic user and she can heal you, and then you're in a dungeon and you're solving these extremely Zelda-esque puzzles, and you're wandering around, you're killing bats or whatever, and then it's like you hit a treasure chest, you're like, oh, you've unlocked turn-based battles, and so all of a sudden you're in the overworld and you're in Final Fantasy battles. And so it is a hybrid Zelda / Final Fantasy homage written by Mel Brooks, let's say, because it's a parody of it. So every trope, every single trope from a 8-bit or 16-bit Final Fantasy or Zelda game or any of the endless clones of those games is in this game, and you slowly unlock them as you go. And so eventually you unlock the third dimension, and then you're in a 3D world, and you're moving through a very Final Fantasy VII-esque town, and you unlock I don't know what they call it, but it's like you unlocked a Buster Sword. Wow, this sword's super heavy, and now you're very much looking like Cloud in Final Fantasy VII, moving through. And you're in a town, and it's like there's like a very belabored fetch quest where you're like, you need to get bombs. Well, what about this person has it? Well, then you go to the next person, and they're like, I think this person, and you just wander back and forth in this town to try to like have all the conversations to go on this fetch quest. But it's not laborious. Every time I'm sitting there laying on the couch with headphones on, whatever, and I kid you not, I'm playing this game and I unlock a chest and I am audibly saying, huh, like repeatedly. Like it's not laughing out loud, but you get to the next part and you're like, you're like sighing with pleasure, with smile, with nostalgia. Because it's not nostalgia. Like you're not playing the game you loved, you're playing this like parody version of it, and it is charming AF, and it is a, in the exact way that you said, it's the comfort blanket, it's the teddy bear, but it's not revisiting the thing you used to love. It is revisiting the essence of the thing we really loved growing up. And everyone's, from what I have read about it over the years, everyone's like, all right, Evoland 1 is cute, but Evoland 2 is the real gem here. So I'm very excited to continue like slowly just smiling my way through this adorable game and then graduating to number 2 to see if it's even better. And I really like what I'm playing so far. It's not complicated and it's not hard. Like if you're looking for like a challenging story-driven RPG, like it is bare bones basic ass, but in a way it's so funny because like if you bought an RPG and it was this bare bones, you'd be disappointed. But because it's not a game, it's an homage to every other game. Right. You're like, of course it has to be simple because these are like, it's like dad jokes. It is the definition. It is a dad joke embodied in a game. And I'm fucking loving it. I'm here for it, man. It is a great like palate cleanser. It's a great comfort game. Evoland 1 and 2. Check it out.
Evoland. Love it.
They're both on my wish list now.
We've had some fascinating like game titles like come up in conversation today.
Yeah.
It's been
They
good.
just put a new game out that's been on my list. They put an early access game out called War Tales. That same company.
The developer. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which looks really good.
I'm
way
interested.
different visually.
Okay.
But also an RPG. I don't think it's as much a like on the nose homage parody.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's called War Tales. It definitely looks a little more in the realm of now we're gonna make an actual RPG.
Real game. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna. But that's funny. It's funny where we're at. That most hits are in some way just like right in your face with their homage to certain games. They're like, it's almost like to be successful, you have to be like, here you go. You want to see Metroid influenced us. Yeah. Here's a bunch of Chozo statues just to make sure you understand.
Here's the Pokemon jingle for the healing keys right here.
Exactly. It's right in your face.
It feels almost like when it's right in your face like that. It's like I think fellow gamers appreciate the homage versus game designers trying to be like, well, we came up with this, we're original.
Exactly.
It's like, no, you're not, motherfucker. Like, but like on the
we know where you got that from.
Right. Like, whereas knowing, where it came from, it's like, at least that puts that smile on your face that, like maybe they have those memories too. So I think that's a good thing,
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It could be done in that way, which would be like, come on, but it is. Guacamelee is another one that the joke with Guacamelee is that it is an homage. And they play that up in the second one, is that they're like, oh, you thought we ran out of homages? They like open the game with that.
But then I love it when it feels comfortable to you, the player.
Yeah.
But then there is a mechanic laid on, or a complexity laid on top of it, of like we said with Stardew. Stardew is a farming simulator, also with RPG and action elements and relationship. Great.
Yeah.
You got me.
Where they lay that out like, yes, there's Harvest Moon, but if you only pay attention to that thing, you're missing what we do over here, which is even better than all that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep. All right, we got a lot of wish lists to knock out. A lot of we've increased our backlog exponentially, so I think we got to get out of here. We got some games to play. Any final thoughts before we get back to it?
My final thought is that Sky loved having you for the second time, but also the time in which I got to hang out. Thank you for coming and being our guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Well, I wish I had a thought. What did I say last time? Should I say the same thing? What was it?
Yes, you did, and I meant to follow up with you. You said something about Banjo-Kazooie modders, or a particular
Kirko
mod.
mods. That was my shout out. Yes, please go check Kirko mods out. I have only in the past year gotten into seeing mods, randomizers, checking them out myself, and the choice. I'm a huge Banjo-Kazooie fan, and Kirko mods is one fella who does I should say the mod that he is known for is the Jiggies of Time, which is an Ocarina of Time and Banjo-Kazooie mashup.
Wow.
It is a full game.
Wow.
I'm gonna blast it a bit because it's so fun. It's very, very hard. He also when the pandemic dropped, he put together at the time what was called the Stay at Home mod, which was to encourage people to stay the fuck at home and play his mod, which was a Banjo-Kazooie mod again. But it turned into a project called Nostalgia 64, where Banjo-Kazooie go to different Nintendo 64 games.
Wow.
Instead. So there's like, he goes to Pokemon Snap. They go to Pokemon Snap. They go to GoldenEye. They go to all these other. It's wild what he does with it. I believe he puts them out he has to put them out for free.
Yeah.
But he does have a Patreon, which is worth submitting to because he also cleans up old rendered artwork from the Nintendo 64 era and blows it up to full resolution from that time.
Wow.
So cool.
It's so awesome what this guy does. So that's
right.
That's what I'll say. Kirko Mods.
Okay. Well, I'm writing that down and making sure that we get it in the show notes as well. Yeah. So there's a link there. Damn. I know. Yeah. I love this stuff. And I have no particular affinity for Banjo-Kazooie, but I love the ROM hacks and the randomizers and the speedrunning stuff. It's just, it's just cracking open this very complicated art form that we call video games and peering inside and being like, what if we move this over here? What will that do? It's just so cool.
It's awesome.
Dope. Colette, you and I have discussed an upcoming series of episodes that I'm really excited about, and I've been thinking a lot about. Is that something perhaps we would want to tease or debut or reveal here? Or shall we save it for the future times?
Do a big tease. Do it.
A tease. Well, does a tease reveal the actual thing, or I don't know how to tease it without saying what it is. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, I guess a good tease goes on for a while. So maybe perhaps today's tease is simply we have a series in the works. A series within a series, if you will.
That's all we'll give you. You got to keep listening. And
it's exciting.
Okay. Thank you, Sky, for joining us. We will have you back soon because this is a lot of fun. If you'll humor us.
I'm always ready to talk video games.
Sweet.
Always.
Sweet.
Or philosophize about art.
Yeah. Both. All of the above. Thank you, Sky. We'll put all of Sky's links to his work and social medias and Discords in the show notes. And thank you, dear listener, for entering the chat with us. Our theme music is by Azure Flux. Our logo is illustrated by Just Call Me Katarina. And as usual, you can email us. That email address is always in the show notes. Have entered the chat at gmail.com. And perhaps even more fun, join the Discord server. That's where we always talk about what you are playing and chat with you about the show and all sorts of stuff, anime and pets and memes and lots of stuff going on in there. So we'd like to see you there. And be sure to leave a rating or review in your podcast platform of choice, if supported or applicable, of course. Don't go writing it into Spotify. There's no box for that. You can't do it. Don't stop. Just stop. And hopefully we'll chat with you more about that Fated series. We're very excited. Colette, final thoughts, final words.
Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play.
We'll see you next. I'm gonna
play tonight.
We'll see you next week. Bye.